Hey everyone, this is C.R. Waters. It's April 1st and I'm launching my podcast called Too Beautiful to Be Broken. God willing, this will not be the last one. We plan on recording every Monday. I'm not exactly sure what time, but look for it. Tonight with me is Kiffany, my daughter. She is 21 last week and beautiful, funny, smart, and here she is.
Hello. Hi. How's everyone doing tonight?
We thought long and hard about what we wanted to do our first podcast on, and I think because today is April 1st, that we are choosing sexual assault awareness and prevention. April is Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month, and it's a really, really strong topic right now and deserves to be talked about a lot. So I'm going to give you guys some statistics that are kind of boring, but very important. Sexual assault touches every gender, race, socioeconomic status, age. It crosses all lines. Someone in America is sexually assaulted every 92 seconds. 15% of them are 12 to 17. 54% of them are 18 to 34. 28% of them are 35 to 64, and 3% are over the age of 65. Girls between the ages of 16 and 19 are 4 times more likely to be victims. 1 out of every 10 rape victim is a man. 94% of women raped will eventually end up with PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, which is basically the same thing that our soldiers come back from war with. It's what you get when you've suffered through something so traumatic that it affects your entire life. And 13% of women that are raped will eventually attempt suicide. Sexual assault has been an epidemic in our country, well, actually in our world, for as long as people have been on this planet. And I think it's time that we fight like hell to stop the silence surrounding sexual assault. It's time that we take our voices back and we end it with this generation. Tiffany, do you have any stories right now that are pertinent? She's in college right now, so do you have anything that might be pertinent to this subject that you might want to tell us?
I do feel as though this topic for sexual assault is very prevalent, especially for people that are in college. There's a lot of things that happen in adolescence that go all the way to college and beyond. And something that I experienced back in 2017, it wasn't as traumatic as how other people might have experienced sexual assault. However, it was something that kind of hit me till this day. And so here's what happened. It was 2017. I had just gotten off of work, and it was about 9 o'clock at night, and I was driving home, and I was like, you know what? I'm starving. So I wanted to go to Wendy's. However, unfortunately, the windows on my car were broken at the time, and I didn't want to go through the drive-thru and have to open up my car door. So what I did was I pulled in, and I walked into Wendy's, and after I ordered my food, I went to go sit down, and while I was waiting, I see something out of the corner of my eye, and I look over at the window in the back door of Wendy's, and there's a man who just ran up to the side door and starts banging on it. Let me in, let me in. And he was wearing a white ski mask over his face, and I was like, oh gosh, like now's not the time. I was like, what is gonna happen? What, like, is he gonna come in? Is he gonna like shoot up the place? Is he gonna have a knife and try to shank people, try to get someone's money? And I sat there, I was waiting for my food. And then all of a sudden I see him go around, and all of the doors in Wendy's are completely clear, so I could see exactly where he was going. And I saw him go to the front of Wendy's, and he opened up the door, and I saw him come in, and I was like, okay, I'm just not going to make eye contact. So after he came in, I was sitting there, and I felt my legs start to shake because I was getting really anxious. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I tried to remain calm, and I was just waiting for my food. So I was sitting there, and then I look over, and I saw that he saw me look at him, and then sure enough, the man ended up approaching me. And while he walked up to me, he was taking his ski mask off, and he sat right next to me. And I was at this point, I was like, gosh, like I don't know what he wants, but I just hope that this is going to be fast. I hope my food's ready. And I'm looking around and nobody's reacting to anything. People are kind of like snickering here and there and looking, but nobody's making any moves. So as I sit there, the guy approaches me and he sits down with me and he's like, "Hey, are you here by yourself?" And I was just like, yeah, I'm just waiting for, my food and stuff. And then he ends up putting his hand on my lap. And I was getting really uncomfortable. And I tried to move away. And he's like, "Where do you think you're going?" And I was just like, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm just trying to get my food. I'm just trying to wait." And I look over at the cash register and I see that there's a manager standing there. And he's just staring over in my direction. But he's not doing anything. He is in complete silence. And at this point, I was mouthing help and he didn't do anything. And the man in the ski mask proceeded to be like, "So, I see you have a ring on your finger, but where's your man at?" And I was just like, "Oh, he's at home. I just got off work." And I was just trying to be as casual as possible. And he's like, and he looked over to me and he smiled and he was like, "Oh, yeah, your man's not here, so you have no one to protect you, right?" And then at that point, I just felt my blood turn cold. I was like, what is he about to do? And then after that, after he realized that I was here by myself, he tried to lean into me and he tried to like sniff my neck or something, or he was just really creepy and disgusting. And I didn't know what to do, and I'm still looking around and I'm trying to figure out what's happening. And at that point, I just was like, "Hey, you know what? Are you hungry? Can I please offer you something?" And then he's like, "Oh, yeah, I am pretty hungry." So this wasn't probably the right thing of me to do, but I ended up going to the cash register and I was like, "Hey, like, I'm just going to order another thing of nuggets." And the guy was like, "Okay." So I ended up buying him food and then I left the scene as soon as possible. I gave him the receipt and I was like, "Here, your food is ready." And I ran outside and I was panicking because I thought he was running after me. And then in that moment, I was just like, wow, like in a public scene, where this man is trying, he wasn't aggressive with me, but he was being slick and disgusting with me. Nobody did a single thing. And that just shows that society, even though something's happening within like the front of their face, that nobody will do anything and nobody will speak up. And I know that I should have spoken up and I should have done something, but for the sake of my safety, I thought it was best for me to purchase this man some food so he can get off my back, because I didn't know if he had a weapon or what he was going to do to me. And I told people my story and people frowned upon that, thinking, "Why would you do that? You're dumb. You should have just left." The thing is, I didn't know what was going to happen if I just left. You have no idea what people are capable of doing if you were to react in a certain way. So I think what I did was appropriate, but that's what happened to me at Wendy's.
The funny part about that is, kiddo, is that you did exactly what you should have done. And people that are telling you that you are dumb have never been in that situation. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes you a survivor, not a victim. Because you were able to use your head, you were able to think, you were able to react appropriately. You didn't let him get too close to you. And you thought of a way to get him away from you. And the sad part about it is that says a lot about our society, in that nobody in the restaurant even stood up to do anything.
Right, exactly.
We don't, and unfortunately that's why there are so many people in our society that are sexually assaulted, because most people close their eyes or pretend it didn't happen. Yeah. So I just don't get it.
I just hope that, if someone is in a situation like that they would try to do quick thinking and think of a way, what can I do to try to get out of the situation as safely and as calmly as possible, because you have no idea what someone is going to do in that case. Because I had no idea if he was going to try and, shank me or do something, try to kidnap me. I had no idea.
See, and part of that is that you did what most of us should do, and you kept a cool head. When you panic or when you get frustrated or when you get, when you're not thinking, you make choices that end you up in a place that something like that could happen.
Right.
But you were able to keep a cool head, and you were able to get yourself out of that. And that's not the only time you've kept a cool head. I remember a time just less than a year ago when you took your sister.
Oh, yes.
And you guys stopped it at Dunkin' Donuts. Mm-hmm. Or no, was it?
It was Krispy Kreme Donuts.
Krispy Kreme Donuts.
Yeah.
In Riverside, actually. And
It was in the Ontario Mills Krispy Kreme donuts.
yeah, and a guy actually followed you guys in there.
Yeah. There was my little sister, she's only 13 years old, and we had walked into a Krispy Kreme donut, and the line was pretty long. And as soon as we got in there was a man who quickly noticed my sister, turned around. He was tall, shaggy, had like blondish, dirty hair. He wore glasses, had a bushy, disgusting mustache, and he was wearing like this anime shirt. And he quickly noticed my sister, and he turned around quickly, and then he just kept staring. And then I stared back. I wasn't having. I was feeling uncomfortable, and my sister ended up standing behind me, and I noticed that his eyes were they were darting down to her chest, and I looked at him, and I was like, you know what? And I told my sister, I was like, let's go, we're leaving. So I was about to put hands on a 40-something-year-old man, because that is wrong. Even if he didn't touch nobody, he didn't say anything, the fact that someone can just do something so disgusting and vile to someone that is so young, only 13 years old, I'm sure this happens often. I had to react fast, and even though I didn't put hands on him, I wanted to, and we just left the scene before something got out of hand.
Well, and again, that's quick thinking and changing the surroundings of where you were and getting her out of there and getting yourself out of there, because you very easily could have been a victim as much as she could have been a victim.
Right.
So and what we have to realize, and I think that there's so many of us that have been victims. I myself am a rape and incest survivor. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. I've been in and out of therapy for 19 years. And so I understand what women are going through, have gone through, will go through. And I've just come to the conclusion that I refuse to consider myself a victim. None of us are victims. If we call ourselves that, then they win. We have to consider ourselves survivors, and we have to realize that we are strong, we are resilient, and that we will not allow anyone to take that power from us in our lives. And that we will take back our voices, and that we'll stand up for, what we believe in, and we will stand up and show them, our beautiful scars, because every warrior has scars, and instead of looking at your scars as something that makes you weak, you need to look at them as something that makes you powerful, because every warrior, every person that's been in battle has scars, and it's time that we embrace our scars, stand tall, and let abusers know that we don't stand alone in this, that we're survivors, and that they cannot defeat us all. The silence needs to end now. I know that this is a lot to swallow for our first podcast, but I wanted to make sure that I started strong and to let everyone know that I'm real, that I'm not afraid to be honest about what I've been through, and that I'm not afraid to talk about whatever somebody needs to talk about. We all need someone that speaks from a place of love and acceptance without judgment. And we're all too important to not be able to take the things that we feel and talk to somebody about it. And it doesn't matter your age, your race, your gender. It's important that we start early and teach our girls what consent is, and that they understand that it's okay to say no. And that we don't have to do anything that we're not comfortable with just because it's the popular thing to do, or everybody wants us to do it, or, because some little boy, tells us all kind of sweet things, or because we want to be liked. None of that matters, and we need to start early in our junior highs, and we need to show our girls that, they can be comfortable in themselves. And as parents, we have to not be afraid to talk about any subject that our girls want to talk about. The only way that they're going to have power to stand up for themselves is if we give them that power. If they see us as weak and not wanting to talk about anything, then they're not going to want to talk about anything. I've raised 6 teenagers. As she said, our youngest is 13 and, right in the middle of it. And she comes home and tells me stories from school, some of the things that they're doing. And I've seen some of the way that the girls dress that go to the school. And it worries me because I feel like we're setting our girls up for failure. We're setting our girls up to go through some things that we don't want them to go through. And April is an extremely important month. We all need to stand tall and show our support for survivors. And we need to stop calling them victims. We need to make sure that we call them what they are, survivors. And we need to show them that even if we haven't been through it, that we stand behind them and believe what they say. You know, the worst thing that you can do to someone that's been through sexual assault is to stand back and question what they've been through. Every survivor deserves to know that they're believed in what they say. They need to know that their lives matter and that their lives are valuable and that they're loved and believed, because that's the only way anybody's going to get through it. That's how I got through it, because I have tremendous support from my family and my friends, and I've never had anybody tell me that they didn't believe what I went through. I just published a book not very long ago called Daughter of Heartache, which is a poetry book that touches on some of the stuff that I've been through. And it's not on Amazon yet, but it's going to be on Amazon soon. And it's a small book, but it has some pretty deep poems in it. I wouldn't suggest that you let your younger teenagers read it, because there's some pretty deep stuff in it. But, you know, I want to see us, you know, embrace April. And April 4th, RAINN, which is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, is asking that everyone put a blue triangle on their hand in support of sexual assault awareness and prevention. And April 2nd, which is tomorrow, that everyone wear teal in support. And so this is the beginning of hopefully a very long podcast that will discuss any issue that anyone wants to talk about. There are no subjects that we won't talk about. Anything from bullying to, you know, gender awareness, or, you know, problems at home, any questions or any issues that anybody wants to talk about. And Tiffany's going to be with me, and my daughter-in-law is going to be with me, and her sister, who's been bullied in her life. And, you know, I'm going to get some people in here to talk about some really important issues. I hope you guys will tune in from now on, and, you know, we can get some stuff out there and dealt with. Any other thoughts, Tiffany?
I just want to touch basis on the fact that this is an incredibly important topic, and it's okay to shed your light. We are all basically, think of yourself as like a caterpillar in a cocoon. You're sitting there, you're waiting and you're waiting until finally you come out of your shell and you become this big, beautiful butterfly, and you feel free. This is basically what this podcast touch bases on, is for you to let go of anything that you've ever came across that made you feel like you were struggling, made you feel like you were sitting in the dark, made you feel like you were in limbo for the longest time. This is basically something for you to finally open up, share your story, or if you're not comfortable with sharing your story, listening to others and understanding that you are never alone. And that is the importance of this podcast.
I want to end every podcast with a thought. We all need to always remember to be true to yourself, to love with your whole heart, and always remember how important family is. Remember, what you fear, you create. So you need to keep positive thoughts in your mind. This is C.R. Waters. Until next time, God bless.
Thank you.